Hello everyone, and welcome to Cabby Mums Loves. My name is Carol Ann, and I've been talking about my experiences when I went through a disease, developed a disease called Parsonage Turner Syndrome with diaphragmatic dysfunction. Other terminology for it is Phrenic Nerve Palsy. This was in May and June of 2021, and I left off at the end of my last video section talking about my experiences while I was in the hospital at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I adjusted when I got home, because the symptoms that it caused, I was told would not recover quickly, and they did not. I was told eventually by my neurologist that they would last anywhere from 2 to 4 years before full recovery would occur. And he was pretty much right on the money. So the initial symptoms and the worst of it lasted for at least a year, if not a year and a half. And then I just very slowly started noticing some improvements. So my initial situation when I first got home was that I was extremely short of breath with any kind of activity, and I've said before that includes simply walking 10 to 20 feet from my chair to the bathroom or the bedroom or the kitchen or wherever I needed to go. We do live in a one-story floor level condominium. It is small. It's just 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, etc. So in this situation, that was very good. My husband had purchased a recliner type chair. Now, I could not sit back in it and enjoy it. I could not lay back in it without using my BiPAP, or even sit back in it without using my BiPAP, because as I've stated, I could not tolerate any degree of reclining at all. I had to sit straight up in order to breathe comfortably. So, first of all, and neither could I tolerate having my body bent at my hips so that my knees were coming up toward me to a very sharp angle. I pretty much had to be at a 90-degree angle from my knees to my hips, and then hips up to my shoulders. So at my hips, at that joint, I had to be pretty much at a 90-degree angle. So I couldn't even sit low in a low chair. That was not at all comfortable either. So I had to sit up. So I found that I had another chair that had a seat cushion that I could remove. And I put that seat cushion on top of the recliner seat and sat on that. And I put pillows behind my back, a firm one, and one that was a little smaller, a little softer, just to give me some lower back and back support. I didn't lean on them, but just having them there and up next to my back did feel a little, I could relax a little bit and sit up for a while. So I did that a lot. I sat in that chair quite a lot for a very long time, about a year and a half, every day, all day. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything around the house. I really couldn't, beyond personal care, showering, that sort of thing. And at first, I also had oxygen that they had sent me home with, and I used it. I had a little incentive spirometer, a little plastic tool that you use to exercise your breathing, and I was told to do that. That was mainly to prevent pneumonia, because I was going to be very prone to that. This was all in 2021 when COVID vaccines were out and being given to people, but COVID was still a very real and rather dangerous thing. Very dangerous for me. I'm so thankful I did not pick it up anytime during this phase of my illness and recovery. So thankful, because I do suspect it would have done me in, and I was really quite afraid of it. So I was happy to stay home. I couldn't go out because of my breathing, but I was happy to stay home because I didn't want any opportunities to pick up that disease too, on top of what I was going through. People have asked me if my problem was related to COVID, and I can't give them a solid answer. I never, during that period of time, I had not had COVID. I did get the vaccines, but I got them in January and February of that year, so it was about 4 months prior to my illness onset, and they don't think that's related. I can't help but wonder if it isn't, but who knows? God only knows, and that's okay. He's the only one that really needs to know. It wouldn't have mattered one way or the other, except maybe for someone else. But if they understood the whole process and in it, yeah. Anyway, I ramble a little sometimes. I apologize for that, but so I sit in a chair every day on cushions, with cushions behind my back, using oxygen, still weak, trying to just maintain, and wondering what in the world this was going to mean, because at that point, when I first came home, I didn't know it was Parsonage Turner. They hadn't yet told me that it was going to last as long as it did. I didn't find that out until I had lived a year and still had almost the same level of symptoms, and found the neurologist who finally diagnosed it. But by then, I was realizing it wasn't something that was going to go away quickly. And I had to do some major adjustments to my life. And the first one was I could not go back to work. At the time, I didn't know how long that was going to last. So brand new job, 2 weeks on the job. I was so excited about that job. Yeah, and I had to tell my managers and explain to them that the doctors couldn't tell me exactly what was wrong or how long it was going to last. So all I knew to do was to take a leave of absence, which I at least could do that, and I did. And I kept them very much updated on any news that I was receiving, but most of the time, for an entire year, I was simply telling them the symptoms hadn't improved, and I still didn't know how long it was going to last. If it was, at that point, as time passed, I didn't know if I was ever going to recover. So they tolerated me doing that for almost a year. And after a year had passed, I just resigned, because I knew I didn't expect them to hold the job. They needed to fill that position permanently, and I understood all of that. So I resigned, and call it resigning, retiring, whatever. By then I was, how old? In 2022. I was born in 58, so I would have been 64 by May of 22. So, in the meantime, I had contacted the Unemployment Bureau in Maryland and did receive unemployment benefits for a number of months. Thank the Lord for that. It helped a little bit. That's not a lot of money, but it's better than nothing. And when those benefits ended, I had nothing. And before they started, I had no income. So during the months that I had no income whatsoever, I delved into my retirement funds, which I didn't want to do, but I had to do in order to pay my bills. And boy, those retirement funds go fast when you have to depend on nothing but them to survive financially. So they were dwindling. And So when the unemployment benefits ended, I picked back up with the retirement fund income. And then, by then, by the time I did that, I had found the neurologist at the University of Maryland in Baltimore, whose name is Dr. Neil Porter, who diagnosed my problem. He told me what he expected to see over the next months to years in my recovery, and he let me know that I probably would never be able to work again. And I understood that. I got it. And I was in my 60s, so it wasn't totally shocking. By the time he told me, I kind of assumed that that's probably what was happening. But then I had to figure out what would my next move be, and that was to apply for Social Security disability. And you've all heard that it can take a while for disability benefits to be approved, and that is true. So I continued to live off of my retirement funds, and they just dwindled very quickly. So that whole time, all I was using them for was to pay my bills. My husband stopped depending on me for any income in our household, and I had been providing at least half of our everyday expenses, our utility bills, our house payment, my own car payment I paid completely. Of course, my medical bills I paid completely, any credit cards, any loans, anything, everything I paid for myself. He paid for himself, and we shared the household expenses. And that was a chunk of money. In Maryland, in Annapolis, everything's expensive. Rent is $1,500 a month for, nowadays it's a 1-bedroom. Back then you could get a 2-bedroom for $1,500 a month. Now our mortgage payment was about that for a 2-bedroom condo. So yes, and everything else. So anyway, he took on all of that on his own, and anything unexpected as well. And so it was hurting us both very much. So I applied for disability. It did take months for that to be finally approved. They did give me a lump at first, not a huge lump, but a lump to cover the months it starts from the date the illness is initiated and you go to the hospital, and the problem starts. So the lump sum covered the months from that date forward to the date that they approved it, where I should have been receiving the benefits, or I qualified for them, but wasn't receiving them yet. So they give you that lump sum, and then you start getting monthly payments, which was the same amount that I would receive in regular Social Security benefits had I reached full retirement age. And the way it all worked out, by the time I did reach full retirement age, which was this past January, I just transitioned from receiving Social Security disability, as far as how they qualify it or describe it, to basic Social Security retirement benefits. But that was the same amount of money. Nothing changed. So that is what I receive now. So I had to adjust financially, I had to adjust physically, and as far as what I could do on a daily basis, which was next to nothing. And then as time passed, after that year, when I finally received the diagnosis, he told me, the neurologist, Dr. Porter, explained that within the next 6 months I should start seeing a little bit of improvement. And he was right. I did. It wasn't a lot. It was very slow, but I did. And then 6 months later, I felt a little bit better. I could do a few more things. 6 months after that, the same thing. And it just kept very slowly improving until, and I, honestly, I'm not absolutely positive, but I believe I probably reached my optimum level of recovery in the spring of 2023 to the fall of 2023, and that 6-month time frame. And after the fall of 23, I haven't improved any further, but I'm definitely so much better than I was at the beginning. He told me I would probably reach the point where I have about 75% of that function back. And if I had to describe how I feel when I do walk any distance or try to pick up my pace, yeah, he's right. Maybe not even that. I do not walk very quickly. I can't without getting winded. And if I walk a distance, for instance, a good long city block, that would tire me out. I would walk slowly enough that I wouldn't be terribly winded a little bit. I'd feel it though. I'd definitely feel it. But as far as, having to stop, I wouldn't have to. I could keep going just slowly, very slowly. And I get fatigued because of that much more quickly. So eventually, if I'm walking with someone who's normal, even my age, but normal, they're going to want to go much quicker, and they're definitely going to think, wow, we're just poking along here. Yes, we are. That's the best I can do. Thank you very much, but that is my body at this stage. So talk about cardio. My heart will definitely be pounding, even though I'm not, it looks to everyone else like I'm just very slowly strolling along. That shouldn't cause any heart rate increase at all, but it does for me. So I get my cardio in. And I do try to park a distance away from places to keep myself as active as I can. And I do drive now. I finally was able to start driving probably sooner than I felt better, because I learned to elevate the seat in my car as high as I could, to sit on a cushion, and to put one behind my back. And I bought a lumbar support cushion for the car. That's what it's for. But it's going to sound crazy too. It gives you a wider bit of support, the cushion itself, at the bottom in your lumbar area, which makes perfect sense for lumbar support. But I needed to sit straight up, so I turned that upside down, put the wide part at the top, which pushed my shoulders and upper back forward and gave me that 90-degree L shape in my hips that I needed. And I learned that if I sat in the car using that cushion and a regular cushion, this was not at first, this was after I had started to feel some of my recovery and improvement, but I could sit in the car with those cushions and actually drive and feel pretty good. So I started driving, and that felt like, wow, freedom and normal. That was wonderful, because I think well, maybe I didn't mention before, but I do enjoy driving. I like to just go get in my car and take a drive into the countryside and see some pretty scenery and relax and listen to my Christian music and sing along, and I don't bother anybody with my cracky voice, and and I can pray out loud and not bother anybody. And yeah, that's great to me. I enjoy doing that, and I missed it, so I was able to start doing that again. It was wonderful. I didn't go very far from home at first because I was a little, just anxious about my own physical status and what if something happened, that sort of thing. But as time passed, I recovered even more. And by the time I reached full recovery, I started getting bored. Getting bored at home. I could do things now. I could do the laundry. I could make the bed. I could do the dishes, just little things that I really hadn't been able to do much of for quite a long time. I was finally able to start doing it. And I have to say here, I am going to do one last video talking about how God used all of that whole experience in my life to get my attention, to show me how much he loved me. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Because during those days of sitting there in that chair, not being able to do anything except watch television, play little games on my phone, and read, etc., I did a lot of talking to God, a whole lot. And I found myself listening to him, probably more than I ever had. And what I heard him saying was, number one, he had my back and my lungs in his hands. He was caring for me. This was not the end of my life. And in spite of it all, he loved me, and I was going to be okay on the inside, in my heart and soul, where it really matters. I was going to be okay. And he comforted me. He comforted me so much. And I'm thankful. I'm so very thankful. I thought back about it, and it reminds me of what he did with Paul in the Bible. Paul the Apostle, when he had that experience with Jesus on the road, where he was on his way to persecute Christians. He was a Roman soldier. He was Jewish, and he hated Christians. And he had a miraculous experience with Jesus Christ, who was by then dead and gone, according to this world's standards. But he wasn't. He was very much alive, and he appeared to Paul. And Paul ended up blind. And for 3 years, he spent time alone because he could not get around and do his normal things. But during that time, he learned about Jesus. He developed a serious, real, solid relationship with the God of heaven through Jesus Christ. And that's what started his ministry. Paul the Apostle, who wrote the epistles, started out by being disabled. How about that? And I felt honored. I felt honored and privileged to have had a similar experience, and I still do to this day. Because something about that, even though I had been a believer since I was 16 years old, but that experience sealed some things in my heart and mind that nothing else could have. The reality of God, the truth of his word, the solid dependability of those truths of him in our hearts and lives. I can't even describe to you. I can't put it into words how it affected me and how deeply. So I'm going to end it there. I love you all. I love my God. I'm thankful as all get out for his healing touch, for his comforting touch, for the strength he gives me. It's his strength to keep living this sometimes very difficult life, and for his answers, everyday answers to common problems. So hang in there. If you're living through this, if you know somebody who is, tell them there's hope and there is a future. And if they can just give God a little bit of faith, try it. You'll love it. He'll get you through. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you the next time.